To some degree, the left and the right have always defined each other. And I don't normally talk about politics on this channel, but I find the degree to which this has become a meme, a trope, and just the reality that we live in a bit too extreme. This doesn't just extend, of course, to politics. This is generally about the polarization that we find everywhere today, mostly due to the internet. You see this typically manifests itself when somebody has an encounter with somebody else and they're both in adversarial positions, in which case no charity, and more specifically no facts, can be acknowledged. So let's say there's somebody you don't like, and it's just a fact that the person you don't like is very tall and attractive. Well, many people will then proceed to claim that the individual they don't like, that they're in an adversarial confrontation with, is in fact not tall and attractive, despite a large-scale consensus to the contrary. Or people that are clearly very intelligent that you might not agree with, and so you can't acknowledge that they're intelligent. To give an example, I know somebody online, very, very far left, very, very, very bad faith actor, a person with whom I've spoken a number of times that I really genuinely don't like. And that takes a lot because I'm pretty mellow and pretty calm about most people. But this guy has routinely mischaracterized my positions in dialogue and has such an extreme form of left-wing politics, and his lack of charitability and good faith just make it impossible for me to like him in any capacity. That said, he's not dumb, because he's studying physics at a top university, and he clearly has a lot of knowledge and understanding of, say, physics, which has been confirmed independently by other people who have studied or are in the field. And so I have to say, despite me really, really disliking this person, he's clearly bright. He's clearly not dumb. Quite the opposite. He's very smart. That's what I'm talking about. This inability to acknowledge reality for what it is because you stand on the other side of the aisle, no matter what the issue might be. I don't need to like this guy at all. He's bad faith. He's disingenuous. He's an unpleasant person. But yes, I don't need to deny the obvious fact that this guy is not dumb. But we've come to a point in time, I think, in discourse, and specifically politics, but broader culture, and these days, is there really a way you can distinguish culture from politics? It's kind of one and the same. You could create a hierarchy, and I do think ultimately politics is subordinate to culture. But these days, they tend to flow in and out of each other so much that they're more or less the same thing. And we're in a situation where if somebody on the left says, the sun is shining, it's not cloudy, somebody on the right will deny that and say, no, it's very cloudy and it's raining, and vice versa. Both sides are guilty of this, because we have two phenomena at work here. On the one hand, the phenomenon I've talked about, this inability to acknowledge facts about people, whether it comes to their looks, whether it comes to their intelligence, whether it comes to whatever it might be, because you don't like the person. Another random example you might be familiar with would be Hassan Piker, one of the biggest progressive streamers out there. And I can acknowledge the guy is tall and attractive. And in fact, I think his height and attractiveness have contributed massively to his success as a streamer. He's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed, that's pretty obvious, but he looks good, and he's tall. Do I like Hassan Piker? Well, I don't know him, but no. He has very weird politics. He tends to just follow trends, and so you never know what he really thinks. But he's tall and good looking. So that's the one element here. And then you have this other element where you have to say the opposite, or claim to believe the opposite, of what your political opponent purports to believe or has stated. Recently in Germany, there was a pretty vicious knife stabbing that left several people injured and 3 people died. A small city or town, the name is Zulingen. There's a bit of irony here because it was a festival, and the festival was called the Festival of Diversity. And on top of that, Zulingen is super famous and well known for making extremely high quality knives and blades. So a twist of irony here. The guy who did it was an Islamist from Syria. And I've borne witness to conversations in the wake of this terrorist attack, whereby it's very clear that this guy slipped through somehow, and the controls regarding immigration with respect to this individual and probably many others have not been very good. And this was, of course, a terrible incident, but you'll see people on the left flat out deny that. Because basically what happened in Zulingen supports most right-wing positions for tighter immigration controls, among other things. And so the gut reflex reaction to that is to just deny or walk things into the opposite direction. This is a current example, but there are broader examples just regarding ideology. So take the right-wing position of pull yourself up by your bootstraps, self-made man nonsense, this stuff that's just patently and just obviously not true when you look at reality. Whether you like the left or not, the left has a point about this because nobody really is a self-made man and nobody is really pulling themselves up by their bootstraps with no aid whatsoever. That just isn't a thing. Right-wing people will deny this outright. They will report the meme, the trope of the self-made man, even though it's manifestly not the case. They'll even give examples of people that had tons of help along the way and repeatedly use the meme of if he can do it, you can too kind of thing. This view doesn't really comport with reality unless you have a very distorted lens, which admittedly a lot of people on the right with respect to this do. But even if people on the right, and I do think they're smart, perspicacious people on the right that acknowledge this, at least internally, they're never going to talk about this publicly. And a classic one, of course, is the blank slate. A lot of people are not necessarily ideologically wedded to the blank slate position, but the opposition, so to speak, is so odious to them that they will pretend to be adherents to the blank slate. Now, not all of them. Some people really do, especially on the left, believe in the blank slate, but some will profess a belief in the blank slate just to make sure they don't appear, quote-unquote, right-wing, or whatever else they might associate with the blank slate. Now, all this would just be entertaining and silly if it weren't for the potential of some very serious issues that affect the world, that affect civilization on the whole. Because it's just a fact that there will be issues going forward, and there are issues right now, and issues will always crop up that are important, that have large-scale effects on potentially millions of people. And if one side and the other side can't agree because they define each other so much in the sense of they're simply the opposite of what the other side thinks and says and does, you can't get cooperation, you can't get coalitions, you can get nothing. And if you look at the landscape of the world, particularly politically right now, especially in the United States, and to a lesser degree, some places in Europe, that's the situation we find ourselves in. I worry sometimes in some really extreme scenario, let's say there's an asteroid heading towards Earth, that I'll just randomly say, the left says there's an asteroid heading to Earth, there's a mountain of evidence, and we need to figure something out to avert it or to put it off course, and it would cost tons and tons of money, as well as global cooperation between dozens and dozens of industrial countries. And in this instance, the right might say, no, there's no asteroid, this is made up, this is just left-wing propaganda, blah, 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 blah. These are the types of scenarios that worry me. And I'm not assigning any particular blame to the right here. There could be something else that were equally horrible. Let's say with unregulated immigration to various countries, the murder rate goes up by something like 120%. And you can't even go outside anymore. I guarantee you that many people on the left will deny this simply because it would be seen as a right-wing talking point. But we are really in the deep doo-doo here. This isn't necessarily politics. This is just this need to adhere so deeply to your particular ideology that it blinds you to the reality you're looking at there. Just as at the individual level, you might not like somebody, you might not agree with them, but you have to acknowledge certain facts about reality, such as if they're tall or smart or good-looking, or even if they have a point that you agree with. There are a lot of obstacles to civilizational progress, but this insistence on being and doing the opposite of the side you don't like, whether it's political, individual, whatever it might be, will be the doom of us. I think it's one of the biggest problems out there. And I know there are a lot of people who are wedded to their politics, but this is not a good approach. And I also get that if you're involved in entrenched politics and you are entrenched in the trenches, if you give the other side an inch, they're going to take a mile and vice versa. So somebody needs to figure out how we get past this, because this does not bode well, not just for politics, but for civilization at large, the world at large. Anyway, thank you for tuning in as always. Many special thanks to my patrons on Patreon and my donors on PayPal. You guys are the best. Without you, this channel simply could not exist. Much appreciated. And if you can leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe, that'd be appreciated too. If I'm still alive, I'll check you out then. Until the next time, may the gods watch over you. Bye-bye for now. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content, please consider making a donation or becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.